AMN Drive Time is sponsored by Aishin, your trusted and reliable source for aftermarket automotive components and technology. Visit AishinAftermarket.com for more information.
Rick, good morning and welcome to AMN Drive Time, sponsored by our good friends at Aishin.
Good morning, Bill. Thanks for having me.
Rick, you graduated from the University of Southern California, which is now, might I add, or almost going to be part of the Big Ten, right?
Right, fight on for USC. I can't wait until we join the Big Ten.
So you first earned your bachelor's degree in international relations and then an MBA from USC's Marshall School of Business. I'm curious why or what interested you in pursuing international relations to start?
Well, Bill, I've had an interest in current affairs and what's going on in the world going back to, I guess, when I was in high school. We always talked about politics over the dinner table at home. And then when I got to college, I took an introduction to international relations, and the professor was just a very inspirational guy. And I ended up majoring in international relations because of him. And that professor, Dr. Lammy, became my advisor for my senior thesis.
Yeah, it's amazing what one professor can really make a difference, right? Throughout
Yep.
our, even as not even a professor, teachers when we're young.
He sure did, yeah.
So Rick, early in your career, you worked for Macy's, you worked for Nestle, you've served in executive roles for a number of companies, not aftermarket related. What did you learn from those positions that you use to this day? Any takeaway nuggets?
Yeah, a couple of nuggets, Bill. First of all, people are the most important part of any business. And just like I had that one professor in college who really was a kind of a mentor to me, I had a couple of different mentors in my career. And even though I worked in different industries before we started Schwartz Advisors, there were a couple of common threads. Listen to your customer, and build a business that can become indispensable to the customers, kind of like the idea of being the first call. And I also learned a lot about how to build teams and how to run a business.
Rick, you and your dad, Mort, which is obviously a well-known person in the business, you guys together founded Schwartz Advisors in 2006. That's almost 20 years ago, right? We're in 2023.
Yeah.
What was the genesis of that? How did the firm come about? Were you just sitting around the dining room table some evening and said, "Hey, Dad, let's do this"?
It's pretty close to that, actually. My dad owned a couple of different WDs in his career and did a lot of different things in his career. And in the course of talking about starting Schwartz Advisors, one of the things that he talked to me about was, I want to start the company that's going to be an advisor to the industry. That's the company that didn't exist when I owned my WDs. And so at the time I was running a company here in San Diego, and he knew that I wanted to do something more entrepreneurial and something that touched on the private equity world. And he wanted to see something that could really serve value to the industry by bringing in people from the industry. So in some ways, yeah, we sat around the dinner table one day and my dad said, "I've got an idea, and what do you think about this?"
So Rick, of course, I've known, you and your dad forever. I've known Schwartz Advisors since 2006. I'm a little embarrassed to say, and maybe others of the AMN audience might agree, I don't know that I know all that you guys do and all that you bring to the aftermarket party with Schwartz Advisors. And maybe you could just use this as a platform to talk about the breadth and depth of the products and services you offer the aftermarket.
Well, first of all, Bill, let me just talk about the team we have, and then I'll talk about what we do. We've got about 10 or 12 partners in our business, and everybody comes from the industry. And as my dad and I built Schwartz Advisors over the years, we were really looking for people who had a couple of different aspects to their career. One was they'd run businesses before, so we wanted people who had experience being part of executive management, having P&L responsibility. The second thing we looked for was people who had some experience in the mergers and acquisition world. And the third thing we looked for was people who came from different parts of the vehicle aftermarket, because in our view, you've got distribution, you've got manufacturing, you've got the SEMA world, you've got repair and service, and so many other parts of the aftermarket. Nobody really is the expert on everything. So we wanted to bring in people who were subject matters on specific parts of the industry. And that gives us the platform to do what we do today, which is really in two big practice areas, as we refer to them. One is mergers and acquisition work. So in the mergers and acquisition world, we act as the advisor and we sell companies. So in the last probably 6 or 7 years since we started this part of our practice, we've been able to complete 25 different transactions. And really what we tend to focus on is some of the deals that are a little bit smaller in size. They're still pretty good size. So when a business owner or a family is looking to exit their business, sometimes will give us a call and we'll be able to help facilitate that transaction. We also work on the buy side of mergers and acquisitions when a buyer, whether it's a company in the aftermarket or a private equity firm, needs to bring in people to help them look at a deal and decide if it's really a good fit for them. So in the mergers and acquisition world, we work on both the buy side and the sell side. Then we have a separate or a second practice area, and we call it our growth strategy practice. And this is where we bring in some of the partners at Schwartz Advisors who've done a lot of growth strategy work when they were on the corporate side, and we advise companies on how to grow their business. We've developed a model for how the aftermarket looks today, and also how we think the aftermarket is going to look over the next 10 to 20 plus years. And so we combine our view of how the aftermarket is going to evolve with a particular company's needs and help them develop strategies for growth.
So to summarize, so you're an M&A, buy side, sell side, and then in addition, just consultants to aftermarket organizations to help them grow their business short-term, long-term.
Yeah, and really the perspective we have is that operators. We're in the world of investment banking and consulting today, but we don't necessarily think of ourselves as bankers or consultants. We still think of ourselves as people who run companies, and that's how we can come in and help our clients. We have that perspective of a bunch of people who run companies, and now we're in the business of advising companies.
So you've sat in the same seat that these folks have sat in, and you can be a trusted advisor to them.
Exactly.
So Rick, as we sit here today in summer/fall of 2023, there's a lot going on in the overall economy, interest rates, inflation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What are some of the trends that you see in M&A related to the macroeconomy, and then perhaps as part of the answer to related to the aftermarket specifically? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, I mean we track that daily. Obviously, in the last 12 to 18 months, there's been a slowdown on the big picture, the macro view of M&A, interest rate hikes, inflation, and some of the geopolitical risks that are out there have really put a little bit of the brakes on the big M&A. But when I say big M&A, I'm talking about deals that are in the hundreds of millions to billions in transaction value. But there's the smaller deals, the deals that, when we say small deals, we're talking about deals that are under 100 million in transaction value. So it could be a couple million up to 100. Those deals are happening. They're happening because buyers have terrific or very strong balance sheets, or the private equity world, they have a lot of capital at their disposal. So they're looking for growth. And a lot of times the growth comes through acquisitions. So we've seen a steady activity of M&A, of acquisitions in the last 12 to 18 months. And we're starting to see activity come back. And we think 2024 is going to be an active year in M&A.
Rick, you mentioned earlier, I think you'd done 24 or 25 M&A deals in the last 6 years or so. Is there a profile or a type of business that is a good fit for you guys, either represented on the buy side or the sell side?
Yeah, so there are two different answers because we have two different buyer profiles depending on whether it's buy side or sell side. So when we're selling companies, we tend to work with family-owned businesses and businesses that are privately held. It could be a couple of partners who together own a business. So that's our focus. And in terms of the size, they tend to be in those deals that are under 100 million in total transaction value. That's who we tend to focus on when we're selling companies. But when we're advising companies, oftentimes it's private equity, and the size of the deal doesn't matter because we're an advisor on whether or not the deal makes sense for the buyer. So on the transaction side, we've worked on some pretty large deals, and we've helped our buyers understand, does this deal really make sense given what the private equity firm is trying to accomplish?
So, Rick, as you know, Schwartz Advisors has partnered with our AMN brand, which Drive Time is a part of course, on a series called the Schwartz Advisors Report. And you're going to be partnering with us on providing content throughout the next 12 months or so. Can you give us a sneak peek of what the audience can expect to be reading about?
Yeah, we're very excited about this opportunity, Bill, and we look forward to getting that going over the next few weeks. So the Schwartz Advisors Report will help the AMN audience better understand the world of mergers and acquisition in the motor vehicle aftermarket. Our goal is to help our clients and bring some expert insight and commentary on the M&A process, on some of the different transactions that are going on in the industry, and who are the different players and what are the trends. And we'll be looking at some of the deals that we've been involved in, as well as some of the deals that are in the market that maybe we were not involved in. And we really want to help anybody who's involved in the aftermarket, whether you're a buyer or seller or a potential investor, understand some of the dynamics that will impact the world of M&A in the next 12 to 24 months.
So, Rick, we've talked about your dad just briefly during our conversation. He's an industry icon, very well known. Any lessons learned throughout your not only career but life from Mort that you carry around? We all remember things our dad taught us, right? Certain things our dads always say that we never forget.
My dad just he's a humble guy, and he's not the kind of guy who's gonna brag much about his accomplishments. And it wasn't until I think I was a little older that I realized how much he had accomplished in his career. So I think one of the important lessons that I've learned is just to have a clear idea of what needs to get done and just do it. Don't talk too much about it. Let your actions speak louder than your words. And I think for my dad, it's always been about creating relationships with the people he does business with, creating trusted relationships, and just get the job done. And don't allow distractions to get in the way. And I think for my dad, it's always been what's right. What's the right thing to do in any given situation. And he continues to be a mentor and a leader to our team to this day.
So, Rick, it is tradition on AMN Drive Time to do a rapid fire Q&A. If you've seen some of them, you know this exists. So I've got a few questions here for you. I'm going to ask you. Okay. I'm going to ask you a question. You're going to give me a quick answer.
Okay.
All right. Are you ready?
Fire away.
All right. Rapid fire. Here we go. First car you owned?
A 1974 Ford Gran Torino.
Wow. Nice.
Shared it with my older brother, Jay.
Mine was a 1976 Ford Pinto wagon. Yellow with the fake wood siding.
Yeah, mine was yellow too. Our car was yellow.
Number 2, would you prefer to watch college sports or pro sports?
Oh, college sports. You mentioned I'm a USC grad, so I'll love the Trojans and love college sports.
Best golf course you've played?
The best golf course I've played is probably the Old Course in Scotland.
Last book you read?
The last book I read is it's a golf book, and it's called Golf in the Kingdom. Actually, I reread it. I've read that a couple of times, so I recently reread it.
Salsa dancing or tango?
Oh, tango. Absolutely tango.
I understand you're sort of a tango expert. Is that an accurate assessment?
Expert, no, but do enjoy tango dancing. My wife and I do Argentine tango dancing, and hopefully next year we will be in Argentina.
Best restaurant or favorite restaurant, better stated, in San Diego?
Oh, well, in San Diego, it's fish tacos. So I think City Tacos has the best fish tacos in town. Go there anytime.
What item is worth spending more money on?
It's worth spending more money on. It's a toss-up between stereo music system throughout the house or new golf clubs. Golf keeps coming up in this conversation.
Right, I'm getting the vibe. Rick, great to have you on AMN Drive Time, sponsored by Aishan.
Thanks, Bill. I appreciate the opportunity.
AMN Drive Time is sponsored by Aishan, your trusted and reliable source for aftermarket automotive components and technology. Visit aishanaftermarket.com for more information.